Welcome back, everybody. 2 weeks down, 2 cards acquired. Well, one of these is actually my son's. My second one is right over here. And what do we have over here? Friday, the 31st. We're going to do our first ever Whatnot stream, so we'll see how that goes. Kind of getting everything all lined up. Got some good stuff. First chapter packs, enchanteds, things like that. A couple links down below if you're interested. By all means, follow the channel, bookmark it, come hang out with me. Even if you don't plan on doing it, that's fine. Just come hang out. It's a lot of fun. If you plan on doing it, be responsible. It's very addictive. Speaking from personal experience, don't ever spend more than what you can afford because it's very addictive. But that's not why you're here. You're here for the meta update. The update on the meta. What is going on in the Lorcana world? Well, I wasn't supposed to show you the week 2 one first. I'm supposed to show you last week's. Last week, we saw Popsicle at 17%, RA at 14%, Steel Song, Blurple, Amethyst Emerald, Amber Steel Aggro, Emerald Steel Discard, Ruby Fasa, and then our other category. What changed? What went up? What went down? What is moving on? That's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about trends moving forward. And in addition to that, I do have one deck to talk about and go over, a little highlighted deck of the week, if you will. So I already had it up on the screen. I already revealed it. You guys already saw it. Set championships week 2, Popsicle 22%. So far the decks reported has been lower than last week, so that is part of this. And again, link to the spreadsheet down below with all the terms and conditions, fine print, stuff like that for what is considered a top in this infographic, obviously. So all that information is down in the spreadsheet linked down below. And you can keep a running total. I update it throughout the week. I do these weekly, so if you check back throughout the week, you can actually see it as I update it, and I'll just do a video on it once a week. Anyway, Ruby Amethyst at 18%. Amber Steel Aggro jumps up to 16%. SteelFasa up to 12%. Blurple at 10%. Amethyst Emerald at 8%. And the other category at 14%. So we see the other category actually went down a little bit. Went from 16 down to 14. Amethyst Emerald also going from 11 down to 8. Blurple was 11, still at 10. Relatively nothing changed. SteelFasa was an other category deck last week. This week it jumps all the way up to 12%. They had a good showing. I think they had 6 tops alone, something like that. Amber Steel Aggro then as well. They were 9%. They jump up to 16. They had a really good showing this week. The top 2 decks are the top 2 decks, guys. I wouldn't expect too much change in that regard week to week. The top 2, top 3 decks are usually going to be pretty stagnant. Can't always say that though, because Steel Song disappeared. Steel Song, where did you go? Where are you? I can say that the set championship I went to had 0 Steel Song players, let alone topping players. Moving forward, that brings us to our total. So we see our week 1, week 2. What is the total for set championship format? Well, Popsicle at 21%, so actually still a little bit lower, which makes sense because 22, but they're dragged down from that week 1 performance. So Popsicle at 21%, Ruby Amethyst 16, Amber Steel Aggro at 12%, Steel Song, there they are, at 9%, Blurple also at 9%, oh my goodness, Amethyst Emerald, Goat is not a yellow card, all at 9%, Purple Steel Aggro at 5%, Discard at 5%, SteelFasa at 3%, Blue Steel at 3%, and our other category decks are at 8%. If you want to know the other category decks, you guessed it, spreadsheet down below. So I still think this is a pretty healthy format. Overall, again, every format you're going to have the best couple decks. That's just how it is. But then when you look at the next group of 5, 6 decks, 7, 8 decks, arguably even, like you have Blue Steel, SteelFasa, Discard, Purple Steel Aggro, Tempo, you have Blurple, Song, Amber Steel Aggro, and the Blue Steel shown here is the controlled variant. That does not include the aggro variant, which is right at the top of the other category. So if you look at that overall, Blue Steel, if you added them together, would actually creep up a little bit closer to that Discard aggro percentage range. So overall, I really like the format where it's at. I think it's very fun. It's very healthy. Both set championships that I've gone to, I think the top 8s at both of them, neither of them had 3 of the same deck. They were all at least 6 different decks, respectively. I think that's just a really healthy indicator of the format. The spreadsheets really back that up, just seeing what's topping, what's doing well. I think overall it's really healthy, and I think the format's just in a really, really good spot. This past weekend was kind of ironic that we saw aggressive decks actually doing better and Popsicle doing better. Usually those two things contradict each other, but Popsicle doing so much better is actually pretty much on par with where did Steel Song go, because Steel Song has a terrible Popsicle matchup. So when Popsicle is doing really well, Steel Song starts to falter down. So that just kind of makes sense there. Overall, though, I think what decks should you look out for moving forward? Which decks are kind of, what decks from this week are pretenders? And that's pretty hard to say because outside of the other category, we only have 6 decks listed. The top 2 obviously are legit. I think all these decks are legit. Last week, I said SteelFasa was a deck to really look out for. It was a deck we talked about even in a video going over some winning deck lists, which I'll do that again this week. I'll pick 4 or 5 deck lists, maybe do it twice, depending how many spicy ones we can find. I said I thought SteelFasa was in a really good spot. Actually, before the first weekend, I actually gave my deck profile and said, this is a deck to look out for. This deck is actually really, really good. And, well, it's showing it that it's really, really good. And a lot of people are playing it and seeing success with it. So I'd say SteelFasa, RubyFasa, even just Mufasa decks in general, I think right now are in a really weird spot where it feels like they shouldn't be sleepers, but they're sleepers. And people just aren't respecting them. And they're doing really well overall. Blue Steel Aggro, I still think that's a solid deck. I think it's a good choice. Maybe we see it creep up a little bit more, but Amber Steel Aggro just seems to be the better version of the two overall. A little more resilient and consistent. Whether you play Pride Lands, whether you play Dwarf Mine, whether you don't play either of them, the deck actually has been pretty malleable as of late in how you can build it and which cards to run. And just having the singer, like Cinderella, your singer with your songs, like it's just such a strong opening to control that board state. Where do I think Steel Song? I don't know about Steel Song right in this moment. I think it's in the right meta. If you know your meta's full of Popsicle, don't play it. Otherwise, it's probably one of the best decks you can play if you know you're going to avoid Popsicle. Still a big fan of Blurple. Is it going to go up more or less? I don't think so. I think it's going to stay right in that 10% range. Amethyst Emerald. This might be the deck I actually play this weekend if I end up going. Spent way more money last weekend than I planned on it. I think that it's just in a weird spot. Because like when you look at those mid-game style decks that can also be a little aggressive in the beginning, it's towards the middle of it. It's not really the best. It's not the worst. And it's just one of those decks, if you really like it, you really enjoy it, you can absolutely go and see a lot of success with it. Purple Steel Aggro, I think, is my deck to look out for this week. We mentioned SteelFasa before. I think Purple Steel, once again, it never truly disappeared. Week 1, it had a slow start, but it came back pretty strong this week. I think that Purple Steel is my pick for the week to really look out for. And as such, we have a deck list to show you guys, because what would that be if we just didn't show you guys a deck list, right? So here is a sample deck list for Purple Steel Aggro, and in the 1-drop spot we are running 9 because you really want to hit a 1-drop in any aggressive deck, even any deck in general. You really do want to hit your 1-drop. Some decks aren't detrimental in it, but a lot of time you do definitely want to hit it. 4 Chernabog, 3 Broom, 2 Mickey. Mickey's just that kind of pesky card that doesn't go away, that can pluck some lore for you, so I do like him in there. In our 2-drop spot, you really want to hit Smee unless you're on the draw or against other aggressive decks. Then Calhoun's going to be very strong. Snake is more of a mid-game card, though, because you really want Snake to bounce your Smee to get the damage off of it, to bounce your John Silver, to be able to play it again to stop your opponent from challenging, bouncing your Lawrence to clear damage, bouncing your Pete to get it back, your Genie for a potential draw, your Goat and Rabbit obviously for crazy advantage. Even your Bell is a good bounce target with your Snake. So you really don't want to play Snake before like turn 4, turn 5, because you want to get some of these better cards down and then start bouncing those type of cards with your Snake. Same with Fox. Like Fox is just, it's needed to answer certain cards in the format and to play, but it's also there as that mid-game card to bounce all those same cards that we just talked about. Tinkerbell, another 3 cost card, so trying to keep the aggressive theme, and I've been playing her in a lot of Amethyst decks, and she puts in so much work, and she's slept on, and people don't respect her. I wanted to have Big Tink in there for the shift lines. I think it's really strong. If you can find the space, absolutely it's worth it, but at the same time, I wanted to be a little bit faster, and I already have 6 5 cost cards, and unfortunately, Giant Fairy was the final card I ended up cutting. I was down to 62, and just with 2 Big Tinks in there, and I'm like, I think Big Tink's the one that's going to have to go. It almost came down to Genie. Genie was another one of those where it's really strong card, really good, but when it gets outed, it hurts, it feels awkward, I don't know. I still really like Genie though, so that's inevitably why we kept it. John Silver, being able to stop your opponent from challenging you. Obviously, you're an aggressive deck. If your opponent can't challenge you in these early turns, that's going to be really strong. Lawrence is a 4/4 until he takes some damage in Quest for 2, so they're going to lose some stuff if they try to take him out. Pete's another mid to late game card. It's more or less B prep insurance, and you can bounce it, so I don't think there's really any reason to play more than 2. Genie, he almost came down to the chopping block, but drawing a card, evasive 4 willpower, questing for 2, kind of hard to take that out of the deck. I did flip my Rabbit Genie ratios though, just because the guaranteed draw when Rabbit is dealt with and taken out. Seems like so many times you get hit with those brawls, when you get hit with all these other types of cards, B preps, it's just sometimes nice to get that guaranteed advantage, or just the fact when you play it, you bounce it, you play it, that's 3 cards already, whereas you'd be a card behind with a Genie, and then in addition, when they take care of it, you get a 4th card. So just overall resource management for the 4th Rabbit justification. Bell has been insane in this entire format. In this deck specifically, healing your Lawrence, healing your Smee, when all of a sudden it's like, okay, Smee's just going to kill himself next turn anyway, he's got 2 damage, I'm not going to waste a character on it. They can have that 2 lore. And then you come down, you quest the 2, you play the Bell, and you move 2 damage to their character. Now they lose a character, and your Smee has no damage once again. It is just very, very strong. Bell is insane. Also working very well in tandem with your Lawrence and just other characters, so you can like crash into something, play your Bell, move the damage, take something else out, especially with that said Lawrence for attack when he has no damage. So you can swing into like a 3/3 character, you take it out, he gets 3 damage, you play the Bell, you move the 3 damage, he basically just killed 2 characters for nothing. Gantu's 4 strength is really hard to deal with for some decks, and he quests for 4. That's really all I gotta say. I've been playing this card in Jafar, and Jafar, I don't even know if he's won me more games or if Gantu has won me more games. It just puts your opponent in such an awkward spot when they're trying to deal with other threats like your Genie, your Tinkerbell, these other types of threats, and all of a sudden you start slapping a Gantu down. It makes it very difficult for your opponent. We're pretty low on our uninkable counts. Having that 1 cost deal 2 damage is just so strong. A comeback play, even you play a 1-drop, you come back with a second 1-drop and a fire the cannons. Completely slow your opponent's tempo. Lots of different utility that you can go with that fire the cannons. Doing something like Genie into Genie and then fire the cannons to finish their Genie. Just little things like that to finish off other characters. Put a 3/3 body into like a Maui and then fire the cannons to finish it off to protect your more important characters. Fire the cannons has been insanely strong. We also spam out all kinds of bodies, so Strength on the Raging Fire is just an inkable way to deal with more threats. You can sing it with ideally like your Pete, your Rabbit, your John Silver, your Fox. These types of cards that aren't going to be questing for more than 1 point. I almost played the You're Still Here for the Resist 2 in a draw, but I'm like, we're going to double up on this John Silver play basically, and When Will My Life Begin means once again, you stop your opponent from challenging you, and then you get to draw a card. So say you come out with 1-drop, you come out with Smee, and then you come back with like John Silver, you stop them from challenging you. Next turn, you come back with like a Genie, a Rabbit, a Goat, and then your John Silver also sings the When Will My Life Begin. You get to draw another card and stop them from challenging once more. It just really puts your opponent in this awkward spot between the songs and the cannons to take out their characters, and then the silvers and the lives to stop them from attacking in general. And you just dictate what they're doing and control them from that standpoint while also being able to draw a card. I think it's super slept on, and I have been thoroughly enjoying it. So overall, again, decklist or Dreamborn link for this deck is down below. Otherwise, that's kind of my thoughts moving into week 3. Who's still trying to get their Jafars? What decks are you trying it with? What are your locals like? If you have questions or would like some advice, I will try my best. But again, you know, knowledge is power, and without all the knowledge, it's kind of hard to give the best advice. But if you want to leave a comment down below, I will get back to you and try to help out if I can. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget our 5,500 subscriber giveaway. We're getting pretty close. We should hit it by set 7 release. And as always, take care.